That night, I was leaving for a business trip. My brother Mike dropped me off at the train station, carried my suitcase, hugged me as usual, and then he didn't go home. He went back to my house, to my wife. Lisa and I had been together for 8 years. We met when I was still in welding school. She worked as a cashier at the local grocery store. Always tired, eyeliner smeared, but with this sincere smile that made you stop. Then our life together began. First, a tiny one-bedroom apartment for rent. Then our son was born, and his joyful cry filled our home. Then our daughter, a little miracle. We moved to a modest two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. Nothing glamorous, but real. Ours. I worked on a construction site where every day was a challenge. Long hours. Lisa got a job at the pharmacy. Retail hell, as she called it. The evenings were short. The kids, dinner, dishes, maybe 20 minutes of silence before bed. But I still believed we were a team, a family. My younger brother Mike, 3 years younger, no wife, no kids, often joked, "You're stuck in monogamy. I'm swimming free out there." He visited us often, almost every day. He brought toys for the kids, helped Lisa with groceries, tightened a wobbly shelf, made her coffee. Lisa once said, "I wish more men were like Mike." I laughed. He's my brother. Of course, he helps. At first, I even felt relieved, as if he was helping to carry the load. But something changed. Lisa started talking less. I come home and she has headphones on, binge watching a show. To my questions, she would answer, or later. In bed, she became cold, distant. She used to cuddle up to me. Now it was, "Not tonight, I'm tired." I blamed work, 2 kids, lack of sleep. After all, it wasn't a honeymoon anymore. She started taking walks, alone. She said she needed fresh air, time to clear her head. She would be gone for more than an hour, even in the rain. She would come back soaked, annoyed, but strangely satisfied. When I asked where she had gone, to Natalie's, I just needed to talk. And then straight into the shower. Meanwhile, Mike started showing up even more often, sometimes in the morning while I was at work. The kids loved it. Lisa made him coffee. A few times I came home and smelled his cologne in the hallway. Sickly sweet, unmistakable. I would ask, "Was Mike here?" "Yeah, he just dropped something off." Everything seemed normal, but it wasn't normal. One day I caught them whispering in the kitchen. When I walked in, Lisa got up and disappeared into the bedroom. Mike started talking about car problems, something with the brakes. But my head was already screaming, and yet I buried it, because it was Mike, because it was Lisa, because I was a fool. When my boss offered me a 1-month job in another city, good money, accommodation included, I jumped at it. I tried to talk to Lisa, but she just said, "Go, it's important." No hugs, nothing. Mike said, "Don't worry, I'll help. The kids will be fine." Back then, I thought it was devotion, and now I see the scheme. On the day of my departure, Mike offered to give me a ride. We drove in silence. Then he turned on the music, asked if I needed any help around the house. I said, "If you can, help Lisa with heavy things." He nodded. At the train station, he hugged me tightly. As always, I said, "Thanks, bro." He smiled. And then I got on that train, and he went back to my house. At first, the journey was quiet and peaceful. Every evening, Lisa and I would share our experiences and discuss the day. But as you will find out after the first week, everything suddenly changed. She seemed to distance herself and began ignoring my calls. Messages came very late, containing short replies like, "busy at the register," or simply, "later." However, that later never came, like a mirage in the desert. One night I finally managed to get through, and instead of her voice, I heard our son's voice. "Mommy's in the bathroom with Uncle Mike." I froze as if struck by lightning. "What did you say?" I barely whispered. "She's in there with him. She was hiding something and laughing," he repeated. At that moment, I felt like I stopped breathing. My heart was pounding wildly, as if trying to escape my chest. My brain was frantically going through all possible scenarios. That night, I barely slept a wink, constantly replaying fragments of memories in my head. Her glances, the subtle scent of his cologne, the sudden silence that had arisen between us, the lies that had become almost habitual, all flashed back. Had I really not noticed anything, or was I simply refusing to see the truth, burying my head in the sand? I decided to return home without warning. I didn't say anything to anyone. I just packed my bags, bought a train ticket, and left, leaving all my belongings at the hotel. I didn't care anymore. I needed to know the truth, or maybe there was still a glimmer of hope that I was wrong, that it was all just a figment of my imagination. The journey seemed endless. Street lights flashed past like sharp knives cutting through the darkness. My hands were clutching the metal handrail. Only one thought was pulsing in my head. What if it's true? What if there really is something between them? I arrived around 2 in the morning, took a cab, dark street, quiet house, but there was a light on in the bedroom, the soft yellow light of the nightlight on my bedside table. I would recognize that light out of 1,000. The front door was unlocked. I always told Lisa to lock the door at night, especially when the kids were home. Apparently, she wasn't alone tonight. I entered the house like a ghost, took off my shoes, quietly walked down the hallway. The kids were asleep in their rooms. There was muffled laughter coming from the bedroom, her laughter, and then his voice, Mike. I opened the door slightly, just a crack. She was lying on top of him. She was only wearing a t-shirt. He was gently running his hand through her hair. They were whispering, laughing, in my bed, on my sheets, inside the life I had built. Time seemed to stand still, and I don't know how long I stood there, frozen in place, just watching, as if watching a nightmarish movie that I couldn't take my eyes off of. They didn't notice me right away. Then she turned her head and froze in horror. He jumped to his feet. Listen, I can explain everything, he began, stammering. It's not what you think, she exclaimed in despair. We were going to tell you, he added, but his words sounded unconvincing. It just happened, she blurted out, as if trying to justify herself. Please, just listen, he pleaded, but I wasn't listening. I turned abruptly, as if fleeing from persecution, closed the door behind me as if cutting myself off from the past, left the house and called a cab. I didn't say a word during the ride. The driver, showing professional courtesy, asked where to go. Without hesitation, I replied, to the train station. But in reality, I didn't care where I was going because I wasn't going anywhere. There was emptiness inside me. I felt like I was dead. Life seemed to have left me. 17 missed calls from Lisa and 6 from Mike. 2 voice messages that I ignored. I didn't care about anything. The next day, I went back home to get my documents. She was in the kitchen. Her eyes were red from tears. Her hands were shaking. I'm sorry, please, she whispered, hoping for forgiveness. I remained silent, unable to utter a word. I didn't want this. It started when you started working so much. He was there. She tried to explain, but her words sounded like a pathetic excuse. That's not an excuse, I replied dryly, interrupting her stream of words. I know, she replied quietly, acknowledging her guilt. Why him? I asked, not understanding how this could have happened. I don't know, he was just there. I thought you wouldn't notice, she confessed, as if hoping I would believe her words. I didn't yell or break anything, although a storm of emotions was raging inside me. I just stood there and felt everything collapsing around me like a house of cards, as if someone was tearing my heart out of my chest. Slowly, without painkillers, she burst into tears, unable to hold back her sobs. You were good. You didn't deserve this, she whispered through her tears. But good men often don't notice the obvious, because we trust. Mike sent a message. I didn't know how to tell you. It went too far. I'm sorry. You're my brother. I messed everything up. I didn't reply. He's not my brother anymore. 2 days later, Lisa packed her things and left. She said she couldn't look me in the eye. I didn't stop her. I let her go. To him. I stayed. With the kids. My daughter was still too young and didn't understand what was happening. But my son, he just sat on the floor, silently, for hours. Then he asked, Dad, will you always be sad? The question echoed in the silence of the room. I replied, trying to choose my words. Nobody, I'm just different now. A year has passed. Exactly 1 year since that night when I came home and saw them together. It wasn't a dream, not a scene from a movie, not a painful hallucination. It was my wife and my brother in my bed. At first, there was nothing, just absolute emptiness. In the room, in my thoughts, in my chest, I moved like a puppet, obeying a program sequence. Every morning, I got the kids ready, made oatmeal, and went to work. Every evening, I came back, cooked dinner, cleaned up, and put them to bed. Now there were only three of us, me, my son, and my daughter. Mike and Lisa had moved in together and settled nearby, just a few blocks away. Sometimes she would come to visit the kids. I never stopped her, but I always left the apartment when she came. It was unbearable to even look at her. My son had changed. He became silent and withdrawn. We used to build model cars together in the evenings, play video games, and laugh. Now he just sat with a book or drew. He kept drawing our house, but there was always only one person on the roof. Just me, him and me. One night he asked, Dad, will Uncle Mike stay with Mom forever now? I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. And are you alone now? I wanted to lie, to say everything was okay, but I couldn't. Yes, son, for now. Yes, but I have you, and Lily, and you have me. We still have each other. Lisa tried to talk. She sent messages. She called a few times. Once she even asked, Can we just talk like people? I replied, What was it before then? Animal instinct? She fell silent, as did I. Mike never called. Thank God. Our mom, didn't know what to do at first. And then she just broke down. I can't choose, she whispered, and there was despair in her voice, as if she was cornered. You're both my sons. I looked at her, and something broke inside me. No, Mom, I said, and every word was filled with bitterness. He's not mine anymore. Work became my salvation, the only way to keep my mind from sinking into the abyss of despair. I started taking extra shifts, sometimes working 10, 12 hours straight, as if trying to escape myself. All I wanted was to come home completely exhausted and fall into oblivion to forget the pain for a moment. But one night I broke down. That evening I let my feelings go, and the tears, like a burst dam, flowed from my eyes. It was the only time I allowed myself such weakness. I sat at the kitchen table, staring motionlessly at the boiling kettle, as if I saw the reflection of my own soul in its bubbling water. And the tears just flowed silently, one after another, falling on the table and forming small, salty puddles. I didn't wipe them away, letting them fall, as if it was the only way to pour out all the pain that had accumulated inside. These were tears for everything at once, for the children who were innocent and forced to suffer, for myself, for my naivety and blindness, for how foolishly I trusted those I shouldn't have. I'm not the same person I was before. What happened has changed me forever, leaving a deep scar on my heart. Now, when I look at people, I no longer see just faces. I see potential knives ready to stab me in the back at the most unexpected moment. I have become more suspicious and cautious. I smile less, as if I have forgotten how to express joy. Now I listen more, trying to catch the slightest signs of insincerity. If someone gets too close, invading my personal space, I retreat as if afraid of getting burned. I don't want to experience the pain I was caused again. But despite everything, I have become stronger. I have learned to handle many things on my own, gaining independence and self-confidence. I cook food, trying to please my children with tasty and healthy dishes. I clean the house, creating comfort and coziness for my family. I put my children to bed every night, telling them stories and wishing them good night. I have learned to braid my daughter's hair, trying to be not only a father to her, but also a mother. I help my son choose sneakers, supporting his interests and hobbies. I am now both a father and a mother, taking on double responsibility for my children. I am not perfect, and I still have a lot to learn. But I am real. Sometimes Lisa still texts, trying to make contact. But it doesn't happen often. as if she herself doubts that she will be forgiven. Sometimes it's just, "How are you?" Saw a photo of the kids. "They've grown so much," she writes, probably hoping to elicit some kind of reaction from me. I don't answer. There is no anger or resentment inside me, just emptiness. I have nothing more to say. All the words have long been said, and there is no point in stirring up the past. One day she wrote, "You were the best person I have ever known. I ruined everything. I'm so sorry. Will you ever be able to forgive me?" I read this message, and not a single emotion stirred in my soul, and I deleted it because I don't need her ifs. I don't want to live in a world of assumptions and regrets. I only look forward. I spent hours, days, trying to understand how this could have happened. My brother, the child I shared a room with, like two inseparable friends. The bed where we fell asleep together, telling each other stories. The toys that we shared equally without knowing envy and greed. The mother who loved us equally. The boy I climbed on roofs with, as if we were fearless heroes, with whom I argued, defending my point of view, with whom I made peace, forgetting all grievances. And then he entered my house like an uninvited guest into my life and burned it to the ground, leaving no stone unturned. You know, people say that betrayal comes from enemies, from those who wish you harm. But that's a lie. Betrayal always comes from those you love, those you trust, those you are sure of as yourself. Betrayal is a bitter fruit that ripens in the gardens where we let people in ourselves. It comes from those to whom we open our hearts, from those to whom we entrust our most cherished secrets. These are the ones who know exactly where to strike to cause the most pain, and paradoxically, they do it without flinching. A whole year has passed, like an eternity filled with suffering and rethinking. I am no longer the person I was before that fateful day when the world turned upside down. Now I've become harder, like tempered steel. Perhaps there is more anger in me, like fire erupting from the depths of my soul. But I have become more honest, first of all with myself, with the person I see in the mirror every morning. And you know what? I'm glad I saw everything with my own eyes, as if I was given the opportunity to look behind the scenes of lies. I'm glad I caught them, exposed them in deception, tore off the masks hiding their true faces, because now I live without illusions, as if I woke up from a long and painful sleep. I still have my children, my treasures, my hope, my house, my fortress, a place where I can be myself, my truth, my compass, pointing the way to the future. Don't repeat my mistake, don't be naive and gullible. Don't ignore the little things, because that's where the devil lies. Listen to your inner voice, to the intuition that never deceives. Look people in the eyes, don't be afraid to see the truth, no matter how bitter it may be. Don't be afraid to leave first, slam the door, end relationships that only bring pain and disappointment. Because there is only one thing worse than betrayal. It is the truth that comes too late when nothing can be changed. When everything around has turned to ashes, when only memories remain of the former happiness like ghosts of the past.